I missed my check. We good? All right. What's up, everybody? Appreciate y'all carving out some time to hang out with us today for our third Behind the Curtain new venue. Really appreciate the team at Unity for giving us the space. Y'all been super hospitable as we've been putting this thing on. James, Josh, everybody on the Unity team, thank you so much. Ryan, we just met, so appreciate y'all having us in here today. To the audience, everybody who's here today, you know, everybody got a long to-do list, lots of things going on, but really appreciate y'all carving out time. It says a lot about how meaningful this dialogue is, this conversation is. Really excited to get into it with these two gentlemen here. And the team at Myo, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to put one of these events on, logistics, planning. So really appreciate everybody on the Myo team who helped make this possible. Can't forget there were some events that were canceled tonight to make space for us to be in here. I wrote them down because I don't want to forget y'all. The co-ed basketball player development and gameplay development program. If any of y'all are here, really appreciate you giving up some space for us to have this this conversation. So just a quick intro, just to set some seating energy on Myo, the brand, who we are. So Myo is modern physical therapy to future-proof your body. Canadian-born and based. We've grown to 23 clinics over the last 10 years. This is our 10th year anniversary. And at the end of the day, why Myo exists is to help people understand how to take better care of their body. We're pouring equity into this idea of body IQ, and Nikki, Tora, we were talking a little bit earlier on just the everyday person doesn't have a strong solution IQ on how to take care of themselves, and you know we're often waiting for something to happen, and there's a lot that we can do ahead of that. So that's why Myo exists. We operate 23 clinics across Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and south of the border in New York and LA. We're excited to open our 24th clinic and second in the path. All right, where you at? In like 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 3 weeks. 3 weeks we'll be have our second clinic in the past. We're really excited to join another community. So that's it. The background on Myo. Behind the curtain, just this event. This is our third time doing this event. The folks that have been in the room from the first one, we really appreciate your support. The first one, we had a conversation with Mike Mencius, LeBron James's performance coach, and Vin Pham, who is the co-founder of Myo. The second conversation, we have our two day one supporters, Melissa Doldrin and Zara Bruce, who are the massage therapists for the Toronto Raptors. Had a really intimate conversation with them about their experience. And today I'm with these two gentlemen, and we're just gonna dig deeper into what happens behind the scenes in sports and on the sidelines. And you know, the reason why this event even exists is everybody in this space, y'all are super busy. There's not a lot of time to have these conversations, and there's a lot of folks in the crowd, you know, how does one become the head athletic therapist for the Toronto Raptors? How does one become the head physiotherapist for the Scarborough Shooting Stars? So we want to pull the curtain on that to give y'all just insights and really create dialogue and space to have the conversations about what it's like to get there. And there's just some folks that are just curious minds about and just like fans of sports. So that's why we're here. Quick background on myself. I'm Dr. Kevin Marichaux. I'm a chiropractor, 13 year of practice. I've been with Myo for the last 10 years, and today I serve as brand marketing director for Myo. Get into some introductions of these gentlemen here. Rayhan, you got a fan club out here today. I met a lot of folks that know you really well. So I missed your name. Ravi. So Ravi went to high school with you, and other way around, high school with you and at York with you. So yeah, really appreciate y'all coming out. There's like 2 degrees of separation with so many folks in the room. So Rayhan Malik, 4th year as the head athletic therapist for the Toronto Raptors, 9th year with the organization.
Yep, 9th.
Been a long run. And Haider Tirmizey, the head physiotherapist for the Scarborough Shooting Stars, 4th year. Yeah, and then we're also fortunate at Myo to have Haider on our team as the lead clinician for the entire Toronto region. So appreciate y'all carving out time to hang out with us today. I know your little one's out here somewhere, new father also in the back. Appreciate you coming out, Queen. So let's get into this conversation here. I feel like it's always such a powerful starting point to just really start with like background, really ground the audience in where you've grown up, your whole story, whether you want to go, you know, childhood, high school, college, all the way through. Because, you know, I have that question. I've had that question growing up, and so many folks in here, like, as I mentioned earlier, Rayhan, like, how does one get to, you know, the head athletic therapist for the Toronto Raptors? Is there something, you know, you wrote in your journal as a kid? Somebody sent you a text one day, like, Rayhan, I really think this is a great opportunity for you. If you could just take us through the background and how you got to that seat.
Yeah, well, honestly, I went to York. I did my kinesiology degree. After I finished, I was kind of lost. Like I didn't know where I wanted to go. I honestly looked into like policing. I shadowed a chiropractor, and I just knew I enjoyed the sport of basketball. I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed watching it, and I wanted to be involved somehow. So I went on Google and I searched up like different teams and found pretty much that every team had a head athletic trainer and an assistant athletic trainer. So I kind of dug a little deeper and found out it was a league mandate to have an athletic trainer or two athletic trainers on a team. So I kind of like did some more homework, realized that York had a athletic therapy postgraduate program at the time. So I guess I enrolled into that, did that for 2 years. And during that process, I did a placement at Ryerson, which is now TMU. And the reason I did that was because there was a coach. So for any of the Canada basketball fans here, his name was Roy Rana. So he had a lot of connections within Canada basketball. He knew a lot of people within the NBA, different teams and stuff like that. So I really wanted to get myself involved for that reason. And he actually put me in touch with the Detroit Pistons at the time as a student therapist, which was super cool. So I got to go out there, shadow a strength and conditioning coach. And they kind of gave me some words of encouragement. But, you know, I slowly realized that there's 30 NBA teams, there's one team in Canada. So the path to get there was going to be hard, but it didn't stop me from continuing to kind of pursue my dream that I wanted to work in the NBA and preferably with the Raptors, but I was open to working with any team. Like if the Oklahoma City Thunder messaged me, I would have went. That was like my goal, and I would have done anything to get there. So fast forward to me working in a clinical setting. I graduated school. I actually work with Jason, so crazy full circle moment now.
Newmarket.
Yeah, in Newmarket, yeah. So I worked there for a year, and we have another colleague of ours here in attendance as well. So shout out to him for coming out. But I kind of felt like I wanted to get myself back into the sports setting, so I actually took a contract job in the University of Mount Allison in New Brunswick. So moved out there for an 8-month contract just to involve myself in sport again. Came back and kind of did some stuff with Ontario basketball, like on the side. Kept working in a clinic, but honestly, I think every day or almost every second day, I just went onto Google and I typed in NBA jobs and I looked up whether there would ever be any posting for athletic therapy jobs within the NBA. And then one day I saw a position for the Raptors 905. It was a head athletic trainer position. Honestly, I didn't think I was qualified at the time, but someone told me, they said, honestly, the worst you can do is apply. If you don't hear back, you don't. And if you don't apply, then you never know. So I applied, and a few weeks later, I got a call back, and the rest was history. And worked my way throughout the Raptors 905, and very fortunate with the Raptors organization, and they kind of promote within, and yeah, here I am.
Homebred.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible story. Appreciate you
Thank you.
sharing. Haider, what's your journey like, sir?
Oh man.
Hey, where do I start?
Basically, that's what I'm trying to think. Like Rayhan, I went to York. I actually went to York with Rayhan as well. So that's where we met. I don't even know how long ago now. I feel like it's been forever. But my path even into York was uncertain because when I was picking my programs for like university at the time, I didn't even know what kinesiology was. I had a friend that was going into kin, and he's like, yo, like you could be a sports doctor if you go do this program. I'm like, okay, sick. Cause I always loved sport. Once again, just like Rayhan, like I loved basketball. And if I could find a way to like make my career in sport, like that would make me so happy. So I took the leap of faith. I followed him to York. And the thing was like a lot of my, I guess, journey was, I didn't have initially like I didn't have a lot of direction. And so little by little, as time goes on, like my vision gets a little bit clearer. But in the beginning, without that much direction, I was just like playing ball all day, every day. I wasn't really like worried about school. But as time went on, I started to realize that if I really want that career in sport, want that fulfillment out of life, I really need to like get my stuff together, start paying attention, and actually figure something out. So I started to get better grades because I knew, okay, the next level was to get into a program. But even with the program, I actually remember talking to Rayhan. I don't know if you remember, but I still remember this super clearly. I saw you outside of Curtis Lecture Hall one day, and you got started your AT program, and you're like, yo, I'm loving it. It's great. Like, you should give it a shot. And I the year before I had applied to the AT program and I didn't get in. So you're like, you got to try again. But then around that time, I'd actually applied for like physio school. And unfortunately I didn't get into school in Ontario, but, that led me to go into Australia for my physio program. And thankfully I was able to get in over there. Once again, once I realized I couldn't get into Ontario and I got into school in Australia, it was just one of those things where I was like, if I go out there for school, like my parents are putting in this great investment for me. It's a big sacrifice. I gotta like go out there and like do a good job. So I get out there and I start to like really like get that direction, get that focus. And out there, I was able to start to like, while I was in school, cover some sports like from sidelines. So I was doing like everything, like rugby especially is really big there. So I started doing some rugby. But even with rugby, I was doing like anything I could cover, like 9U rugby, like these kids just like hitting each other. It was intense. But so I was doing that. I was doing soccer, basketball, whatever I could get my hands on, but just more experience, more reps. And so that was really big for me because that just gave me more confidence that this is sort of the avenue that I want to be in, was be in sport. Once I finished up my program in Australia, I worked an extra year in Australia and I was able to work with a semi-pro rugby team as their main physio. And honestly, like for anyone in the room trying to figure out, getting into sport, working in sport, rugby is such a great sport to work with just because you see so much, like the amount of, unfortunately for the athletes, but for you as a trainer, like the amount of injuries that you see, you get so many reps, you're taping so much, like it really made me a better therapist. And I came back to Canada and that's when I was like, okay, let me try and start to figure out how I can get a basketball because that was ultimately my goal. And then at the time, CEBL wasn't even a thing. But I started to reach out to high school programs and I had like a couple people that actually like got back to me. I just like emailed every like OSBA program in Ontario, and then a couple of coaches reached out. I had conversations and I started to help out at one of the programs, but COVID hit and then that put a pause on things. But during that period, I still kept on working on refining my craft. And then once on the other side of COVID, I was at Western taking the Masters of, I don't even know the name of it.
It's a long name.
Yeah, it's a big, long name, but I was at school with Jason. And and so basically I was working elsewhere. And then once I met Jason, he sort of like introduced me to Myo. I came over to Myo, and basically as soon as I came over to Myo, within the first month that I started working there, him and John Lee, one of the other physios at Myo, there's a group chat and they're like, yo, like Shooting Stars need some coverage for training camp. You down? And then I was like, yo, like that's sick, right? Like being from Scarborough, that this was going to be like a full circle moment for me. Like that was amazing. I was like, yeah, of course I'm down. And so like I made sure I was ready. Like all the work I put in sort of like leading up to it, I knew I was like, I was going to step into that like training camp, like ready and like, prepared to go. And at the time, they didn't really, Shooting Stars didn't have like 100% idea of like who they were going to have and like what the plan was. But my thing was go in there, show my value, just like show up and like help out any way I can. And then on the other end of training camp, once things finished off, a couple of guys from Shooting Stars came up to me and they're like, hey, like, we love the things that you did. Can you clear your schedule for the summer? And I'm like, yo, Jason, can I clear my schedule for the summer? And he's like, of course you can, my friend. And yeah, so that was the first season with them, and then thankfully I've been able to grow that into 4 years of care with the Shooting Stars, and definitely enjoyed every moment of it. I feel like I'm a totally different clinician. Year 1 to year 4, I've grown a lot, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all sharing, man. Just incredible stories of persistence and obviously some clarity in your vision. You both very early on knew what you wanted and you weren't going to take no for an answer. So I really appreciate y'all sharing. So let's change pace here a little bit and just talk about, really dig into frameworks and heuristics around care. We'd love, Rayhan, if you don't mind kicking us off, like if you could share with us how you like your philosophies around care and how you support the athletes on the team, and just overall if there's like courses or mentors or like how you went to start to think about how you think about care and programming.
Yeah, so I think my approach is very evidence-based. Our whole staff kind of uses an evidence-based approach, and it's also athlete-centered. I think for my position itself, when someone gets hurt, there's so many different voices that you have to communicate with. Their coaching staff, there's front office, there's the athlete itself, there's player agents. So there's so many different stakeholders involved in your decision making, and also the athletes are worth a lot of money. So those decisions factor a lot. So for me, and our VP of Player Health and Performance, Alex McKechnie, does a big, he really emphasizes just making sure that we're making sound decisions that are beneficial for the athlete itself, and not making decisions that the coach wants him back or front office wants him back. So I think that's super important. And I think Alex is a huge mentor for me. Just starting off with the 905, I had the opportunity to have a full-time position, and he gave me the opportunity to join the team when the 905 season ended. So for those who don't know the structure of the 905 or the G League, it's a 50-game season. And once it ended, I joined the team for the postseason. And then I was also involved with the summer planning, so player visits, summer league, and all of that. So every year he kind of gave me more responsibility, and that's kind of how I kind of evolved into the Raptors role. So yeah, he's one of my huge mentors. Coming out of Ryerson, I had an athletic therapist at the time who also did some like an internship or a volunteership with the Raptors, and his name is Jerome. He's still at Ryerson today, till this day, and he's still been a huge mentor for me.
What was your experience like?
Yeah, so I'd say with like programming and whatnot, honestly, it's the same thing that Rayhan said. I think you can't go wrong with being athlete-centered. Like everything revolves around them when you're able to like develop a goal that's like very, very specific to them. And very structured around what they need, then you can reverse engineer anything, be able to figure out like your programming based off of that. But ultimately it's a matter of figuring out what success means for that athlete, and then being able to go from there. So I think that ultimately always like weighs really, really heavily on my mind whenever I'm trying to help create a program, especially when you're working with athletes. The other piece is just collaboration, right? And to Rand's point as well, having good folks around you that you can lean on, that share the same vision as you, because that'll help you to be able to like lean on everyone's strengths. Everyone has their biases, their blind spots and whatnot. So you always want to be aware of that, reflect on those, but then also be able to figure out how you can best serve that athlete. And then in terms of like the mentorship piece, honestly, like I've been lucky enough to have mentors like throughout my whole journey, and it's so key. Like one of my mentors when I was at York was the first person that said, hey, look at University of Queensland. I never heard of that at that time. And I just, listened to him. I followed what he said, and I went to University of Queensland for my physio degree, and that was like the best decision I ever made, right? So it's really important to be able to like find mentors that are like really, really invested in you, and then just listen to them and be like an open book and just like taking everything they're talking about.
Yeah, takes a village. If we stick on frameworks for a second, I'll start with you, Haider, because I know your story more intimately. We spent so much time together. I know that it feels like over the last 5 years, there are no overnight celebrities, but it feels like sports science and data analytics, hand dyno, force plates, all of that really feels like it tipped recently. And I know that that's an incredibly important part of the way that you practice, the way you think about supporting your athletes and your clients. If you dig a little bit more into, just sports science, how that informs your care.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I think over the last few years, it's crazy. Like there's literally a device for everything. Like you can figure out anything and everything you want. And it'll like track it for you. So it's wild. It's great as a consumer. It's great because you can also, once again, if you're into that stuff, you can track all that. For me personally, like it's been nice to be able to have tools. Like it's one of the ways I always think is you try and gather as much data as you're reasonable, that is reasonable, but then you're also using like certain data is going to weigh heavier for you than others, and it's going to differ depending on the case and the situation. But with regards to sports science, like one of the main things and main tools, and we've been tinkering with it, Kev, is like force plates that I've been using in my practice, and it's been really cool. Like I've been using it for the last 2 years now, and it's helped me out a lot. But what I will say is, with all the data, with all the numbers, with everything that you get from it, it can get confusing. And without actually thinking about what you're also receiving and, knowing how to interpret data, analyze data, and then act on it, you can take people the wrong way. Because I know initially when I first got the force plates, I was expecting a certain result when I get someone to jump. I'm like, yo, this is going to be sick. They're going to love this. And then it's showing me the total opposite of what I'm expecting. And I have to be there on the spot to give them my analysis of what I'm seeing. I'm like, oh, shoot. So it definitely takes some time. So what I'd say with sports science is if as you go down that road, it's going to be one of those things where you really have to invest your time in learning how to use it. Not just force plates, but anything else that you use. And then don't separate the numbers from the athlete and the actual person themselves. Because I think that's the other thing. You get all these numbers and you're looking at it, but you forget what the actual person looks like. So those are the two things that I specifically learned with sports science always, once again, go back to the athlete-centered part before anything else.
Yeah, here, whenever I'm in clinic and I see that big suitcase lying around, I know Haider's here somewhere. Rayhan, and Raptors or your own personal experience just around sports science?
Yeah, so I think the NBA, it's evolving rapidly. Like Haider said, you can use it for so many things, but I think you can't count the athlete out. I think for us, we're fortunate enough to have an athletic trainer who's indulging into the sports science stuff. So it's a unique perspective with him. And we're fortunate enough to have a coach who's understanding of the information that it provides. So sometimes we use that information to guide practice guidelines or recommendations for it. So that's super cool to see that a coach is with it, because we've had coaches in the past that didn't care for it. And that's just the reality of the NBA. But yeah, I think what Haider said is you hit it on the bar. You use it in conjunction with your clinical findings and everything else, and you can't just solely rely on it. But I think it provides valuable information, and I think it's a really good tool. And for the NBA perspective is, our budget is so vast where we can sometimes get caught up with too much technology, and sometimes that can be misleading because you have 10 different things and they show 10 different values and you really don't know what to do with it. So I think just finding out what works for you and making sure that when you're collecting that data, you have a lot of data before you make decisions and not just base it off one finding.
Let's talk about an organization's medical staff. So, obviously with the Raptors, highest level of basketball, and then CEBL. For those who don't know, CEBL is the Canadian Elite Basketball League. So obviously resources and size of the team is going to be different. So we'd love to just unpack, we're watching these games on TV. We see all of these people behind the bench. Who are all of these folks? What did they do? So, Rand, if you don't mind kicking off, just what makes up the medical staff? How many people? Who's on the team? I mean, 2 are already accounted for. We hear, but the medical staff. What makes it up? How does it differ potentially across the league?
So 2 of the most important medical staff members.
There you go.
But yeah, so we have 2 massage therapists. We have 2 PTs. Myself and another A2 also does the sports science aspect of it. We have 2 strength and conditioning coaches, a nutritionist, a sports psychologist, and then our VP of player health and performance is also a PT. So we have a big group, which is pretty standard across the NBA. Some teams have more athletic trainers or PTs, but they generally follow the same kind of model in terms of a staff. Just some people have more people, so it just depends. And remind me what the second part of your question.
And if you dug into just your own role, like as an athletic therapist within that ecosystem, what does that look like?
So my role is the head athletic trainer with the team. So during games, like you said, I'll be the first one onto the floor to assess the situation. So I'll do like a sideline assessment if someone does get hurt or if someone's bleeding or they have to deal with a traumatic event. I'll make the decision whether that athlete needs to go to the back to get reassessed. And usually our VP of player health and our doctors will go to the back. I'll stay at the front in case something else happens. And then usually someone will walk out and let me know, hey, the person is coming back or they're not coming back. And I'll be the one to relay to the coach that information. So, and then on a day-to-day basis, I help kind of make sure that all the treatments are in order. There's enough staff adequate for the morning treatments, player appointments, consults for further specialist appointments, day-to-day treatments, and just reporting to our VP and some of the coaching staff on like daily player status for practices and games. But that's essentially the role of myself. There's so much more that involves in it, but that's like the gist of it.
Appreciate it. Haider, shooting stars, yeah. What does that look like?
So like staff wise, we don't roll as deep as Rayhan. But honestly, there've been a couple of seasons where when we rock up to the like handshake lines afterwards, like the other teams like looking, they're like, damn, you guys are like deep, like it's like NBA style. So generally the way the makeup is we have like the rehab department, which will be usually like myself, and then we've had like a AT. And then we'll have a performance side, which is made up of strength and conditioning coaches. And then we have medical, so doctors and the like. So the goal is, because there's so much, like all of it is so fluid and there's so much overlap, it's huge to just have like good and solid open communication at all times. So that's generally the makeup of our team. And then we've had like mental, like health practitioners and stuff like that involved in our staff as well. And then on the day-to-day, like for myself, like ultimately anything and everything like rehab wise, like treatments, like rehab programming, those things like during practice, that sort of stuff I'll take care of. And very much like Rayhan. So I'll be the main, like the first responder if anyone goes down or if there's any cuts, bleeds, bruises, or bleeds. Yeah. That I'll take care of. And generally speaking, just like Rayhan said, if there's an injury, we will have some doctors on site. So we'll normally transport the player to the back. I'll try and stay out up front, just in case something else happens. So just like very much in that sense, but that's usually the way, it goes for me too.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Haider, we'd love to, I know your story more intimately, Rayhan, we'll get to know each other more and more, but Haider, I know, the way you exist in the sports world, like, the spectrum of, with the Shooting Stars, you're working for this organization, and then you're also serving and supporting athletes one-to-one, like reaching out to you, hiring you, you're just working with this one individual person. So we'd love for you to share, just kind of contrast the experience of working for an organization or an individual person, the challenges, the opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It can feel very different when you're with a team versus when you're just working with the one person. I think the most obvious piece of that is just the fact that when you're working with a team, you're responsible for 12, 15 guys, however many guys are around, right? Even with staff around you, at the end of the day, you are still thinking about, up to a dozen athletes. So versus when you're working with the one person, you'll just think about that one person. So you're able to get a lot deeper in a sense with that one person. You'll collect a lot of information through everything when you are working with a team, but still just your focus on that one person allows you to just have that one track of mind. And then with that said, like with the one person, when you are working one-on-one, you're able to anticipate things a little bit more in that sense, just because you get so much information from that one person that you're always like ready. Like, for instance, I was working with this one athlete recently, and we're and she was going on the road, and then we're trying to figure out, okay, what kind of things that we need to have for her. And well, one of the things was, okay, like we're gonna get her some like electrolyte, and it's like, oh, what kind of electrolyte does she like? And I knew the answer right away because I was spending so much time with her. I knew exactly the kind of things that she was doing, all this stuff, well, like this color electrolyte from this brand, all this stuff, right? So it's just like, you just know everything about this one person, versus when you're on the team, because you have so much extra information, you might not be able to pick up on those nuances. But that's where it's the job of the staff to communicate and collaborate and make sure that they're on one wavelength, so that way you are picking up on that kind of information. And then with the team aspect, I guess it's like one of the big positives is because you're working with so many different people, you get to build and develop so many relationships, which is really interesting. You know, you get to meet people from all walks of life, with different backgrounds, and there's just a different kind of energy when you're in a locker room full of like 12 people versus when you're treating just the one individual on their own. So that's one of the different aspects. And then I guess you'll see a lot of different things in terms of just like experience, like different kinds of injuries, different things going on. Obviously, you know, you hope nothing happens, but that's part of the game. So you learn a lot of different kinds of like things as a result. And I guess the final piece, that's like the main difference in my experience, that's the case, is when you're working with a one person, you can spend like 3-4 hours with that one person in a training session, right? Like, they could be in you could go through them, like you can go through a lift with them, then they could be on court, and then they're going through a treatment session, and then you're just doing that day over day over day, versus when you're in a team environment. Once again, you might not be able to spend as much time with an individual athlete. Obviously, you'll be there for a while, but you might cycle back and forth between a few people. But those are the main things in my
Got it. So let's change pace here. This is my favorite part of the conversation, is a day in the life with y'all. Like, you know, Rayhan, if you kick us off, like, you know, obviously off season versus in season versus home game versus away game, like all of those days are going to look different. But I guess like if we go with where we are in the calendar right now, off season, what does the off season, like you and I had a quick conversation, how the season went might impact what the off season looks like. But if you just take us through the last, you know, couple of months, I know y'all are gearing up for training camp, but what does off season look like?
Yeah, so the off season from my first year to now has changed a lot. My first year, we had some time off. I feel like now we don't get as much time off. I feel like there's more camps. There's more. There's just so many other things. So just to walk you guys through it, we start in May, and or say we don't make the playoffs, for example. We end the season in April. We'll have about 2 or maybe 3 weeks off, and we'll start getting ready for the combine. So we'll head to Chicago. It's a requirement for the head athletic trainer to head to Chicago, and you'll do physicals on the players that are coming in. So management will give you a list, and they'll say, hey, we're interested in so-and-so. If you can see these players, it'd be great. After Chicago, in June, we start to have players come to Toronto. Whether they come individually or they come in a group, and now we do assessments on them to kind of see their past history of injuries. We'll color code them based off like what we think about them from a medical perspective. Red being, hey, they're a red flag, or green being, hey, we didn't really find anything. So we pretty much go through that process. It runs all through June. There are times, like for example, this year we had to go to Buffalo to do a workout just because one of our guys didn't have a passport to come to Canada, or didn't have a visa. So there's stuff like that happens like that all the time.
It's just a Toronto issue.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So yeah, we had to go to Buffalo. But after that, we go through the draft, and we have to be there on draft day. Front office will ask us again, hey, we're interested in so-and-so, remind us what you think about them. We'll end up going through the draft, picking our selection depending on how many picks we have. And then we'll head into summer league. Summer league is 2.5 weeks. We make our G League staff take care of it, fortunately. So we don't have to go for so long. But when I was in the G League, I've done 2.5 weeks in Vegas, and it's a long time. It's a very long time. After the first weekend, you're just tired of the smoke that you see and just like people coming in. They're so excited, and you just want to go home.
Was the first year fun, and then it?
My first 2 years were like super fun, and then the third year was like, oh no, this is getting tiring.
Yeah.
But after summer league, we'll tend to have some camps and some player visits, depending on. So a lot of the older guys, we don't necessarily see them at our camps, but we have to go and check in on them. So generally, you'll go with a coach. You'll go spend maybe 3 days to about a week with his player, and work with them. Sometimes players need to travel, and they want you to come with them. So you get the opportunity to do that, but you're obviously away from home while you're doing that. And then as we approach September, we start gearing back up. So we've been back in Monday to Friday. We'll have the weekends off, and we'll pretty much prep for physicals at the end of the month. And this year we're heading to Calgary for training camp.
So just dig in a little bit more, because it sounded like 9 years ago when you just started, like the off seasons were more off, and now it's a little bit less off. Like what changed? Was it philosophy of the team, or?
Yeah, I think so. The coaches who used to be there had a factor in terms of what they wanted to do. Our team had been around, or they've been together for a long time, whereas we're going into a new direction. We're trying to build new culture, so I think that has a factor in it too. And we're also trying to go into next season trying to win some games. So we can't keep missing the playoffs, because eventually this is the sport, this is the nature of the game. You got to win, and if you don't, they're gonna make some changes eventually.
So if we come a little bit further in the calendar, let's take, for example, a home game day. What does that look like for you? What time are you getting up in the morning? Where are you off to next? Where do you eat?
So we'll typically have shoot around in the morning. Sometimes, like when we're halfway through the season, we'll get a message and say no shoot around, and that's like the best thing ever. It's like, oh my God, we have so much time in the morning. But yeah, so we'll typically have shoot around. It'll go from like, we'll have morning treatments prior to it. Shoot around will be like 10 to 11 or 11 to 12. We'll have a break. We'll have some treatments after that, but we'll have a break, say from 12 to 4. We'll head back to the arena if it's at Scotiabank, and we'll start prepping for the game. We'll have guys come through. They all have different shooting times, and we're getting ready for the game. 7 o'clock, 7:30 tip off. I'm usually out on the court dealing with the game, and after the game, there are treatments too, recovery massages. Shout out to our massage therapist, grinding after the game. But yeah, that's essentially a game day. And then depending on what the next day looks like, we're prepping for that. Sometimes it's a back-to-back, sometimes it's a practice day. So it just all depends. You get to a point in the season where it's practice day, game day, and you don't even know what day of the week it is. It gets like that.
Haider, take us on the road with the Shooting Stars. Y'all recently had a playoff run. Winnipeg was the host city. So what does that look like, getting on the road with the team during the playoffs?
In Winnipeg, eh? Yeah, so I guess getting on the road, if I speak specifically to the Winnipeg example, we probably got in. So our playoff game was on the Friday. It was around the time the Air Canada strikes were going on, so it like messed with when we were supposed to get in, but we got in on the Wednesday. And basically get on Wednesday. Fortunately in Winnipeg, the gym that we play at is like literally right across the street from the hotel that we're staying at. So you get into the hotel, drop your things off, straight to the gym. Because I think we got there a little in like later on in the evening. So still wanted to get like a little bit of like time and some reps in. So straight to the gym. That was probably for an hour or so. And then given that it was like a travel day, guys just got on the court. A couple of guys were like, feeling their backs a bit and whatnot. So did a bit of treatment into the evening. And then on the Thursday it was a practice day. So once again, we were able to just walk right across the street. That was probably in the afternoon for practice. And then because it's Self Championship weekend. They had the awards night on the Thursday night. So come back from practice, get ready for awards night. Awards night happens because we were playing a game the next day. It's one of those things, you go to the event, you go home, like you go to the hotel, get a good night's sleep, and then get at it for the game on Friday. And then generally speaking, for like a 7 p.m. game on the road, I think we had like a shoot around at like maybe 10 in the morning till 11. And then it was just go grab lunch, get a little bit of rest at the hotel, get to the arena probably for about like, I'd say somewhere around like 5:30 for a 7 o'clock game. Once again, just because it's so close, you could just like, rest at the hotel room, get ready, and then go over. And then, yeah, get ready for tip off at 7 o'clock.
Let's talk about winning and not winning and your own personal experiences around that. Rayhan, you and I were talking a bit about that. Like, how attached or detached do y'all feel like, if you were to distill the contribution that we have with athletes, it's availability, building resiliency, like putting them in the best position to be successful. But how personally connected do you feel to winning and not winning? How does that impact you?
Honestly, like anybody who comes from like an athletic background, they're competitive, right? So it's only normal to feel, say 82 game season, it's a long season, 10 games in, you lose 10 in a row, you're gonna feel something. It's only natural, but we try to do our best to make sure that we stay positive throughout the whole process. The medical staff are the first ones to see most of the players in the morning. So if we're kind of feeling down, that energy transfers. We used to have a coach and he used to say one thing, and it kind of like resonated with me as I kind of approach throughout. It's you're either energy taker or you're energy giver. And he was right all about that. Honestly, when I heard it first, I was like, doesn't really make sense. But now when I look back at it, it's true. We're the first ones they see. So we try our best to, not let the outcome of the game affect us, because we know how important it is for our athletes. If our energy is super high, that can translate to them leading into the weight room, having a good lift, having good activation, and then stepping onto court. And our coaching staff does that. They do that too. Our head coach is all about that energy, and always giving it, no matter win or loss. Yeah.
Yeah, Haider, how connected do you feel to the record?
Yeah, I think in terms of like how connected I feel to winning and losing, if anyone has watched the Shooting Stars game, you'll see me on the sides like pretty animated, more than I probably should be, more than I should be. But it's one of those things where, like Rayhan said, from an athletic background, played ball, like you get excited and like, you spend so much time with the team and the players, how much they want it. And so you feel very involved. But what I'd say is, yeah, like when you're winning, like, everyone can jump around, be happy. It's natural. It's easy. Like, you're riding a high. So all that is totally fine. It's like how you act when things aren't going as well. And then in those moments, it's always like a conscious effort on my part to just be as positive of a like individual for guys to be around, like on the bench or during a game if things aren't going as well, still sort of like, still be clapping, still sort of like get guys up and talk to guys and whatnot. Don't let myself be the one that's bringing anything down. And then same thing, like, once you get to the locker room, like whether it's halftime and you guys are down, the same way you would like dap everyone up while they're like sitting waiting for coach to come by, like, same way, just like the same kind of energy. So that way you don't want anyone else to feel like you think anything is like off, right? No matter how tough the game is, whatever's going on. So I think at the end of the day, yeah, like you'll experience the highs, but when the lows are lower, you don't want to be the person at the basement. You still want to be like level-headed and like that positive energy, because you really never know, like, what guys can feed off of. So yeah.
Yeah, if we get into a bit of story time for a second, we'd love for y'all to share, not have to name names, but, digging into fulfillment. If there's a experience with a player or the team that really resonates and stands out for you, like, this makes all the work worth it.
For me, I've been very fortunate enough to work with a lot of players in the past, being here for 9 years. I think the one that stands out to me the most is, so it was the summertime. I got a chance to go to Cameroon with one of our players. And I got to go twice, actually. So it was really cool to be able to go twice. And it's somewhere I never thought I would ever go. So it was cool to see his like the story behind him and where he grew up. And what was really cool about it was that he held a camp out there for kids, and he had me involved in it just because he's like, yo, I want you to help out the kids. They don't get to have someone like you very often. So I think at the time, I think we had like 110 kids, and I was running a dynamic warm up for 110 kids. And I was like, this is crazy. It was a crazy scene to see, but it was so cool to do. I also got a chance just to talk about like general ankle sprains with coaches out there, just because they just don't have the resources or knowledge. So it's funny. I still keep in contact with a few of them on Instagram, and they'll message me here and there, and they still say, hey, we use some of the things that you told us, and we've gotten our athletes back, or we felt like they needed to rest a little bit more. So that part was really fulfilling for me, to be honest.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing. That you got to stand out for you, Haider?
Yeah, like I'd say in terms of fulfillment piece, it would be more than anything, not necessarily just like a singular athlete. I think the part is, so with the CEBL, it's like a 3-month season. Guys are in and out sometimes. Some guys might come late, and you might not even spend 3 months with them. But then the nice part is you're able to develop a relationship with these guys, and then you see them in like the next chapter of their journey. They might be at a club team, and then little by little you might see them like rising in the ranks of like the level of the league that they're playing in. And so it's really cool to see their journey from, like CBL, and then like out in Europe, and like their transition and whatever that is. So like that's always really cool to see over time. And what sort of like makes me feel, like that fulfilled part, and knows that I'm like making an impact in these guys' lives, is a lot of times while they're away, they'll reach out to me and be like, hey, look, this is sort of what's going on. Like, oh, what do you think what do you think I should do about this? Or, oh, this is what my team's telling me. Like, do you agree with that direction? Like, and whatnot. And so like, that's really like, it shows me that we were able to build trust within the time that we spent together, that they're like thinking of me in this moment, and they're reaching out to me personally. So that's always nice. And then when guys come back to the city, even if they're not with the team anymore, but still just sort of hit me up and be like, hey, look, can we get a couple of sessions in? Just sort of so it just shows me that like it's transcended like just those 3 months that we had together, and like we built something like bigger than that. That's really cool. And one thing I always try and do at the end of every season, I'll like hit up every player and just like send them a message about, there's something specific to them that I like appreciated about them, just to show them that, hey, look, like, just as man to man, just like, you guys did a great job, and, this is something to take with you for your next journey. And a lot of the responses I get from that just always like give me that feeling of, hey, look, like these guys really appreciated the things that we did. And so I think things like that really give me like fulfillment ultimately at the end of the day.
Appreciate y'all sharing really beautiful stories. So as we get closer to wrapping up here, again, there's a lot of folks that pull up today. I want to get to where Rayhan is one day, where Haider is one day. At Myo, we talk a lot about this will, skill, fit matrix, and I think it's very black and white. You go to school, you accumulate all of these technical skills, but on one end, you have your will, determination, just your passion for it, and then just overall a fit, like your personality, your demeanor, how you fit within a group. Would love, and if you kick us off, just unpacking, I guess, the will and fit part of it. Like how important is that? What does that look like? And what have you seen around you, how that translates to success?
Yeah, I think obviously like your clinical skill set is the foundation to you being a clinician, but working in the NBA, there's so much more to it. There's the communication piece, because there's so many different people that you have to communicate with within the medical staff, with the coaching staff, with the front office, with the media, and PR. So I think that goes a long way, and just being able to navigate all these different people and making sure that the same message is given across. So we oftentimes with the medical staff meet almost every day just to make sure that the message is clear and we're not necessarily saying something to someone and we're misleading someone to have, because it's very easy to have to say one thing to one person and then it to go lead into something completely different. It could be like, hey, he's not playing to he might play type of thing. It's very easy. So we try to mitigate that as much as possible. And I think a big thing for us, especially working the NBA, is like the adaptability piece. You may have a player who's dealing with patellar tendinopathy, and you may have this 2-week rehab plan or whatever it might be, and you might have it laid out perfect. And you say, hey, this day we have a game day. After the game, we're going to load him. We're going to lift him heavy because tomorrow we have a day off. And after the game, you might lose, and the player says, I'm not lifted. And what do you do with that information? Like, how do you go about it? And you have to learn how to adapt. And if you don't, then your emotions get involved, and it leads to a bigger issue. So I would say those two things are the big part about like outside of just the clinical skills.
Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I think like to Rayhan's point, I think the skill piece is like the entry point to anything when you're looking at like getting into like the sport world. You have to come into it with a baseline of like a lot of like time and hours spent in like developing your craft. The will piece ends up being like once you're in the door with your skill piece, that helps you to be able to, I think, like stay for a certain amount of time, because that's your hard work, that's your determination, that's like the passion that people are like seeing from you and like feeding off of. So I think that's the next piece. But then the fit of you being able to like fit into culture, like people actually wanting to like spend time with you, and like having it be more than just like work, and just almost feel like like family or friends or whatever that is. So I'd say to like really stick around, like obviously like in Rayhan's case, he had the skill, he had the will, and then for him to be 9 years deep for the Raptors, like the fit was also key, especially in the NBA, which is like it can be like there's a lot of change happening and stuff like that. So I think that just shows fit as well.
So as we wrap up here, the younger version of yourself, Rayhan, he's out there Googling, looking up any role that's open. What would you say to that young man sitting in the crowd?
Honestly, like, keep networking as much as you can. You'd be surprised on how many people actually reach back out. Use LinkedIn, use Instagram if you need to. But when I was going through it, I would message almost everyone as much as I could. And like I said earlier, if I didn't hear back, it is what it is. Like, at least I tried, and you'd be surprised on how many people actually reach back out. I try to make an effort to reach back out to people who message me on LinkedIn. And every one of us were in the same position. We were all looking, we're all trying to search for things or opportunities or volunteerships or even a phone call. So I think just keep reaching out. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I would say is don't be shy to reach out.
Hey, there's somebody's in Queensland, Australia. They're gonna watch this video. what do you have for them?
I definitely agree with Rayhan's point of just making sure that you reach out, because you never know who's going to answer back. What I'd say, especially in the high performance realm, is the advice I'd give anyone that wants to get into it would be the advice that you think that high performer got to get themselves into that position, which is you need to work hard. You have to stay dedicated. You have to be better than other people. Like, you can't just take it lightly. Like, it has to be like a crazy obsession for you, because when you're in that room, when you step in through those doors and you're surrounded by these people that take their craft so seriously, when they take a whiff of you not being serious on your craft and just sort of being, lazy or like unenergetic or whatever that is. And so I'd say just approach your craft with the same level of attention that someone else would, because when they see that in you, they'll like right away want to work with you, or you'll get the calls and you'll attract that from just the universe itself. So that'll be the biggest piece, I'd say.
Appreciate it. Well, we're going to have to make some time for a part 2. There's so much more we could talk about, but I want to create some space for, these gentlemen will hang out for a little bit after. If y'all have any questions you want to ask them directly, please do. I really appreciate y'all carving out time to hang out with us today. I know you two gentlemen are super busy. I feel like your daughter was out there. I hear daddy. Come get me.
She held it down. My wife did a great job up
Thank you.
So.
So I appreciate both of y'all carving out time, getting
you.
behind the curtain a little bit and really sharing your experiences. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you again,
everyone.
Unity,
Appreciate y'all.
for having us, the whole Myo team. We're gonna hang out. I feel like it's probably some more food, some more drinks, hang out, connect with each other, and hear each other's story. Really appreciate y'all pulling up for another Behind the Curtain. Jay, we got to plan a 4th one now. Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate y'all showing up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.